the headbanging's not as headbanging.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My neck's sore. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I don't.
Box and brew, and you can't even use this. Or maybe you can.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to the ANAK podcast. My name is Alex Krotz, and I'm back here again with my good friend, Mr. Jay Riehl. Welcome back to the podcast, Jay.
Thank you.
It's good to have you back here once again. And we're doing I would call it more of a co-hosted fun chat today. And I wanted to discuss something that came up recently a couple times, actually. And I thought you would have a really fun perspective on this, as you've had longer in this world than even I have.
I'm older. That's what he's saying.
Yeah. But I thought it was a really interesting subject, and that is the fact that when it comes to music, and this is creating, this is enjoyment, this is anything, when it comes to consumption of music, especially, everybody perceives music differently, perceives the artists differently, perceives records differently, perceives the sonics differently. And I don't just mean, some people have hearing problems and can't hear 5K. I'm talking literally, they think they have a different emotional association with music. And, as we all know, music is a very emotional thing. It invokes emotion, and that's why we like it. It invokes different feelings for everybody. But it's interesting when you really think about it, how different moves that you make when you're mixing a record, especially for us, when we're creating records, we're trying to figure out how is it going to evoke different emotions for the listeners in the end. And it's a tricky thing because everybody is going to perceive it differently, completely differently. So I wanted to talk about this because I think that a lot of producers and engineers and music creators try and think about this too on the nose almost, and try and think about it in like, I have to make the perfect pop song or the perfect rock song or the perfect this genre of song, whatever, any genre.
Right.
But that's kind of impossible because everybody that listens to it's going to perceive it differently. And that doesn't sometimes even have anything to do with the music itself, but their life experiences and their life, the memories that they have associated with a genre, or, I'll start this off. One of the things that I notice is there's a band that I now absolutely love called Spirit Box, and they're a metal band. And for the longest time, I wouldn't listen to them because I didn't like the name Spirit Box. That sounded really weird and like hippie to me.
Right.
And I didn't like their whole like branding. It just was very odd to me. And I didn't know why, but the name and the branding just turned me off of it. And I just for some reason, maybe I'll check it out someday, but I didn't.
Right.
And yet when I finally was like, you know what, I'll give them a chance. And I saw something that was not their official videos. It was a live singing version of the singer. She just sang over the track and just live, one take all the way through. And she was a little quirky at the beginning, like fun humor in there. And then she sang, and she was spot on and perfect, and just, it was astounding.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, if this is what she's doing, I got to check the rest of this record out. And so I did. I went and listened to the record, and it's now one of my favorite records at the moment. But for the longest time, I didn't even listen to it because of the fact that I didn't like the name of the artist.
Right.
Right. And that's, I don't know why, personally, I don't even know why, but how does something like that and people's perception of music play into you creating music? Do you think about the fact that, people are going to perceive it differently? Do you think about the fact that you're not going to be able to please everybody, so you just go with your most authentic decisions? Did that take a while to get there even? Because a lot of people, I feel, take a while to get there.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, certain projects are genre specific, and you have to sort of fall within the guidelines of that genre.
Of course.
To a point.
Yeah,
of course, but you're always trying to stretch and push and move those boundaries so that you come up with something different.
Yeah.
Do I think about it when I'm consciously producing stuff? No, I don't. I I come to terms a long time ago that you can't please everybody. I used to, for example, when I'd write a song, I would let 10 of my friends hear it before I'd release it or let anyone else, just to get their opinion on it.
Yeah.
And I stopped doing that because quickly I had 10 different opinions.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, like a politician, there's no possible way I can keep all 10 of those opinions. I can't please them. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So when I'm working on stuff anymore, no, I work on it to appease, first of all, the artist.
Yep.
As long as they're happy, I'm happy. But then me, second in line, I do it to something that makes me feel happy and joyous and proper. Mm-hmm. And again, same deal. You give that same said song to 10 different producers, you have 10 different songs.
Yeah, literally.
But that's the art. It's like looking at a Picasso, and some people will go, "Oh, I love the earth tones, and it reminds me of the summery, starry nights of it." And the next guy's like, "I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't get it."
And that's very prominent. That it's very obvious to people in art.
Yes,
because that is you can look at the same painting. Two people can stand beside each other, look at the same painting, and go, "I don't get it," and the other person go, "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
I love it.
I would pay $10 million for this."
Right.
And the other guy's like, "I do not understand this painting at all. It looks like somebody threw up on a canvas." Right? But,
But that's the art, though. That's kind of, whether it's music or poetry or art or painting or literature, writing, books, fantasy, science, what doesn't matter. It's all sort of a thought. And, here's another way to sort of divide it. Are you Star Trek or Star Wars? Because it doesn't seem to be too many of both.
Right.
They're either Star Wars sucks or Star Trek sucks. They were both so popular that it touched multiple people.
Yeah.
I think that's more the key. Unfortunately, in today's times, it's more about the number than it is the actual art.
Yeah.
That the more downloads or the more spins or the more people that have seen your song or, downloaded it, YouTube plays, whatever the case, it becomes more of a number than it actually has to do with the actual art. But the numbers, in the same sense, the numbers kind of reflect that. If somebody's more in tune with whoever, Lady Gaga, she's going to have more numbers than the next artist.
More people there are certain genres that more people are attracted to pop. It literally goes into our, our psyche, our brains are like, yes, we like the structure, we like the versus jazz, where less people understand it because it's like, this all sounds wrong. Right, it's a different thing.
Tune?
Now, but okay, so it's a very valid point. Do you think nowadays that that skew of numbers, because you see this over everything to do with modern society, frankly, when it's like people want more likes on their Instagram photos and more streams and more this and more that. Do you think that chasing of numbers actually waters down the art nowadays when people are trying to make a song that appeals to more people instead of thinking about the art? Because so while you think on that, this is my kind of thought on this, is that for some people it does, and it actually hurts the art, where you have smaller artists who don't know, they're trying to break in, so they go, we got to try and appeal to the most amount of people so that we can get the bigger streaming numbers, so that we can get on bigger tours, whatever, blah, 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 blah is your plan. But then they go into the studio and especially if it's band and there's 5 people trying to make decisions, they're all trying to, widen the spectrum of what their music is covering, which then in the end hurts it. Versus somebody like, somebody who is very in tune with what they like, and they're going full hog on what they like, and that's their decisions. Sometimes that works out, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you get a small niche of very dedicated people, but like we all know, with 1,000 true fans, you can make a pretty good living if you have that. However, there are also people who do the same thing, such as Chad Kroeger from Nickelback, who, having talked to many people who have worked with him, That's very authentically him. It's also massively popular, but he's not doing it for the popularity. He's not writing the songs going, what is going to be the perfect song for radio? He writes what he thinks.
Yeah.
And then it comes out and it's massive. And same with Taylor Swift. I genuinely think she goes with her instincts. That's how she would manage to pivot from country to the biggest pop record in the world, is because that was authentically what she felt. She just went with it and it worked.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a lot of smaller artists that are doing it for the numbers, that then it just falls flat because it's not appealing to anybody instead of everybody.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It does hurt the art, I think. Why would you want to sound like anyone else anyway? Like, why would I paint two Picassos that look almost identically the same?
Yeah.
That's...
Well, for forgery to get another million.
There's that. But relate that same concept to music. Why do we do that? Why do we... I know why we do it. It's money.
Yeah.
Like, for example, check Nickelback.
Yeah.
They came out, whole different, heavy, tight, new processed sound. It was big. And the next year, there were 5 bands that sounded just like that.
Yep.
And the reason there is because the record companies knew that they could make money selling that style of music.
So they wanted more of it.
So therefore they sold out. And that's not a true art form, because they just basically took the Picasso
Totally.
and made a complete recreation of the Picasso.
Picasso? But it's true. And, you know, a lot of people, I mean, Nickelback, I've always really liked them, and I've loved their sound and everything. But they're one of the people's favorite bands to hate, because they're like, oh, they're radio rock. Well, yeah, but they created the sound.
Yeah.
Actually, they were the first ones.
Yeah. And they've done well. They've
done well. And why is everything still a number one? And why do people go and they still sell out arena tours around the world?
Oh, yeah.
Because people genuinely enjoy it.
Well, you know, similar thing to back up jeopardizing the art. I honestly believe that individuals have lost, not all.
Yep.
There are some purists that, Chris Stapleton is one, a country guy. He's still doing the old country sort of stuff, and he's carving his way through. So this doesn't apply to everybody, but on a grand scale, similar thing. Like when Shania Twain came out, you know, most of the females at that time in the genre were doing more of a traditional sort of vibe or sound to their vibe. Here comes along this kid from Canada, you know, showing her midriff and mind you, she had Mutt Lange as a producer. That doesn't hurt.
No.
But he completely came in and made a female singing rock tunes.
Yeah.
What happened was, because she was the first female to do that, and then once she shot to the top,
Yep.
the next year, all of the other females were now doing rock songs.
Yeah.
Because Shania changed what country people were listening to.
Yep.
So now I'm not saying that they sold out per se, but to answer your question, yes, it does affect the final outcome, because now you're not being as true to your art or yourself if you're contemplating seeing the numbers on your Spotify and YouTube go up.
Exactly.
If you're all about the numbers, then you're playing the game.
Yeah.
But if you're a true artist, you don't care about numbers.
A good band does think about their fans and go, what do our fans? They're not, you know, to a degree they're satisfying themselves, but they're also thinking, what are my fans going to enjoy? Maybe not, I'm going to make the same record because I know they like the last record.
Yeah.
The fans want more, and you're going to lose some fans and you're going to gain new fans.
Yeah.
That's how it works. And they know that, but they're like, okay, we're not going to completely pivot and do it. You know, we're a hard rock band and now we're going to do a jazz record because we started playing jazz for fun. They don't do that. They would go, okay, we'll make a new band for that. Course. This one is this thing. But they, you know, bands grow and develop, and that's very important. But even like a really good example, and I mean, I'm using rock examples, but Bring Me the Horizon, they used to be a deathcore band. And now they're one of the biggest rock bands on pop radio. And they've slowly developed their sound and they've slowly changed. But when you talk to them and you talk to Ollie, the lead singer and the guitar player who does a lot of the production, they genuinely are just doing that because they're interested in changing.
Yeah.
Not what's going to get us more popular. Mm-hmm. That's not why.
Now, very similar.
Yeah.
There are a handful of artists that have learned to grow with their audience, which is basically what you're saying.
Yep.
Like Madonna. When she came out, Holiday, all that stuff. It was like 1988, and it was teeny bopper, pop music, and all that stuff. But I mean, she's had a 50-year career in the music industry.
Yep.
But it's because every 8 or 10 years, she's doing a rap, like she
changes.
She changes. She grows with her audience, as opposed to, like say, a kid star who maintains singing kid songs. But then they're all of a sudden they're 32 years old and they're still singing kid songs. It doesn't work.
Now, part of that, do you think, has to do with, because that's a very valid point, part of that, do you think has to do with the suits who are looking at the numbers and look at the, because bands who can maintain a long career and it works for a long period of time, right? They are developing with their audience. They're slowly changing, like Bring Me the Horizon. They're changing because they want to do that. Versus some bands who they seem to keep putting out the same record after time.
Sounds
to
like the
fulfill
last
their 5-record deal.
Yeah.
And the record label's like, no, we want that. That's what we want. We don't want this other stuff.
We don't want new stuff.
We want that.
Yeah.
They end up falling flat after a while. And you don't hear about them, or they're one-hit wonders, or because they try to chase the same thing.
Yes.
Versus the people that keep coming out and they lose fans, but they're like, I like this.
Yeah.
I'm going to change. I'm growing. They're growing themselves.
Hopefully the idea,
and their fans are also growing, so they're all growing together. And
that's the key.
That's the point.
Yeah.
But they're not being held down by the suits who are thinking of the numbers.
I was taught in engineering school, and we went to the same school.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if the same teacher was involved at this particular point or not. But I also know that with radio, the more times a song is played and you hear a certain song 8 times in the day, you perceive that song as being better.
Yep.
Even though it may not be, it doesn't matter, but there's where we lose the art, is that you're not deciding whether that's a good song.
Yep.
You're being force-fed this song so many times on your favorite radio station that you believe that that's a great song. But you're not making up your own mind.
Right.
You're being manipulated into thinking this is a great song.
Totally.
So I think that messes with the art a lot too.
Absolutely. Now, do you think then, speaking of which,
Yeah.
nowadays it's a little bit different in the way that radio is not the prime means of people listening to music anymore. It used to be, back in the day of the Stones. You basically had the Stones, Motley Crue, the Beatles, and Madonna.
Yeah.
That was it.
That's
like,
true.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they would pump millions of dollars into putting this on radio, and it would be on radio, and that's who you'd hear, and you'd get force-fed. There was only that way to listen to it, so you figured it was a great music.
Yeah.
And if you grew up in that era, you have this attachment to a lot of those old artists that were from then, classic rock and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Part of that is probably because of exactly what you just said, where you heard it a ton because that was literally all there was that was getting to you.
That's it.
But nowadays with streaming, you can pick what you want to hear, and you can hear that a million times, and you can find new genres and new artists because of that aren't being as forced. Obviously there's curated playlists and all this kind of stuff, but you still have more of a choice than you've ever had before.
That's true. That's a good point.
So is that opening now? Is that going the other way, and that's opening up the art?
It should be. Yeah.
In theory.
In theory.
It's opening up the possibility for art, I suppose.
It is. It is. It does. Yes, it does.
Yes.
But, there's still... we all share the same 12 notes. We just do. It's the same 12 notes we all get to share with.
Yeah.
However, but somebody that's into country is going to remain listening to the country genre.
Yes.
So they may get introduced to more and different eclectic country genre, which is opening up their artistic views on music.
Yep.
Or feeling the different emotions that you might feel from all these different artists. But there's still a whole other big sea and ocean of music that share the same 12 notes that they won't like.
Totally.
And is that geographical? Is that because they grew up on a farm? Is that because I'm not trying to, stereotype or anything, but you know what I mean? Like everyone has a genre which is influenced from previous existence. Like for example, okay, this is maybe not the greatest example because being a music producer, I try and listen to whatever I need to.
Yep.
To like if I'm doing a bossa nova record, I'll listen to a bunch of bossa nova music before I do it.
Totally.
Right. But so that's different. Our job is a little bit different. But when you have when growing up, of course, my parents listened to a lot of country music. So at home, that's all I ever heard.
Yep.
So the rebellious part of me, when I got into school, grew my hair long and started listening to Van Halen.
Right.
But still listening to country.
Yep.
And then when I got into the music industry and started making money at it and playing, gigs and jobs and sorts, I started in the country field. But ironically, at the time, the country field paid more than the rock field did.
Right.
At that level. I'm not talking arenas, stadiums. I'm talking clubs and just, working weekends and whatnot. But both of them were an influence. So I got the influence from mom and dad of the country. And then, of course, being in school and being with your friends in high school, of course, they did not listen to country. Mm-hmm. So I got a wide swath of Motley Crue, Van Halen, the 80s, hair rock, Poison, all that stuff. And so moving on, it's funny, those are still two of my favorite genres.
Right.
I'll listen to grunge and I understand it, or rap or opera or any of the other genres, but it's not something I would necessarily just listen to for something to do.
Right. It's interesting because when I was growing up, a different era, but my parents and stuff listened to a lot of like Enya and Diana Krall and that kind of stuff. And when I was first started growing up, I loved Diana Krall.
Yeah.
That was, she was amazing. And and all that kind of stuff. And again, as I got into school, it started to become Nickelback and Sum 41 and Avril Lavigne. And like, I was a punk kid, kind of like I wore the studded belts and the studded wrist things and that was my
awesome.
And like I was the guy that had the slicked over hair, long hair that like I gelled within an inch of its life and that kind of stuff, because that's what I was listening to, that's what I was influenced by at that point. And to this day I still love Sum 41. You know what I mean? But a different thing. But you are definitely influenced differently by what you're surrounded by and by how you rebel, I suppose, as you're growing up.
I noticed that's the other thing. I think that age has a big factor in this too. That as you get a little older, the headbanging's not as headbanging.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My neck's sore. But that I think that's a factor too. So not just geography, right? Obviously, if you're born in Brazil, you'd be into Brazilian, calypso. That it's a different world.
Totally.
So geography has a factor in what you perceive as music that makes emotional music.
Yes.
Let me rephrase that.
Now, do you think, as people who were in this for sonic reasons, do you think that the sonics of a record influence, because you're a producer and because you're an engineer and because you're a music maker, do you think that influences how much you like a record as well? Now, not from a nostalgia point of view, that's a different thing I think, but when you hear a new song or a new record or a new artist, do you think the actual sonics and the quality of it influence how you hear it, or how you enjoy it personally, I guess?
Good one. That's really good.
Because I know we're very good at saying this is a demo or this is an iPhone recording, but the song is good. Yes, I'll record that because the song's good. We're really good at hearing that.
Yeah.
Whereas I think a lot of people aren't good at, they hear an iPhone scratchy recording and go, oh, that sucks. Whereas we can differentiate that. However, on the other end of the spectrum, do you think that a professional finished recording that doesn't sound as good, does that hinder your personal enjoyment?
Personally?
Yeah.
Personally, no.
Okay. Interesting.
I don't think it does. I think it's sort of band specific. Like, for example, I mean, they were still great sonic records, but I mean, it's a Van Halen song.
Yes.
Because of the players.
Yes.
Even if it was an old, like a Shure 57 they recorded with, or a U84, it wouldn't matter. At that point, the technical sonic quality of the recording, because you just know that, well, that's David Lee Roth, that's Eddie Van Halen,
yeah.
that's them. Kind of like you mentioned, we talked earlier before the cameras were on, but like, similar like Rolling Stones, like they had their own sound.
Yes.
Which, when they started and became big, was not as near as sonic or fidelic as today.
Totally.
But to be honest, back then, there was less to pick from. Like, there was only a handful of rock bands that were on the charts.
Right.
Now with Spotify and all these streaming, there's hundreds of thousands of people all competing for that spot. Where back then, there was 10 bands.
Right. But that's kind of what I'm saying. If back then, like, it makes sense. And I know a lot of people love the Rolling Stones and love the old recordings and stuff and are very nostalgic to that because that's what they grew up on. And I'm the same way.
Yeah.
When I listen to old records that I loved, I'm like, holy crap, this is not recorded well. This is out of tune or whatever.
Yeah.
But I loved it back then because that was the best we had and that was the bands that we had.
Yeah.
But if the Rolling Stones recorded the way they were in the 70s, came out as a new band today, would it influence people's
I see what
perception of it? Because it would sound
probably
kind of crappy.
I would, yes. I think, again, on the general public,
Yeah.
for me, no, because I'm listening more for content than I am sonic fidelity.
Okay.
Knowing that can be fixed or changed or re-recorded.
Right.
But again, to answer the general masses, it would be an influence, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like it unless you're doing some like underground culty kind of thing,
that totally.
which happens.
There are definitely genres that come out now that sound like garbage, but people love them because that's
because
the
it
genre.
sounds like garbage.
That's the point. And I'm not talking about Garbage the band. I'm talking literally it sounds bad.
Yeah.
But that's the point. If you put out a pop track that sounded like the big records of the 70s and 60s, people would be like, what is this? Even if it was literally the perfect pop song in every other sense of the structure, words, everything else.
Yeah.
People would still be like, what is that? It sounds bad, weird, right?
Well, it's kind of filtered over, I find, a little bit. To a point, but like everything is so tuned and so perfect in today's world because every note's been manipulated.
Yeah.
Moved, put on the grid.
As somebody who proudly does that for a living.
Right? Well, but I get it, but that's the sound. That's the sound.
And that's what people have been accustomed to because of, once again, it's been drilled into
them, like, because perfect is better. And it is. When it's perfect, it's
better.
Perfect.
It's
right?
perfect, yeah.
But unfortunately, aside, what's the word? A byproduct of that.
Yep.
Now, when a lot of people that are avid music listeners that are so used to listen to this perfect music, when they go to a club or a bar or pub and they see just a single guy playing his acoustic and singing, and he's really good.
Yep.
But he's not perfect.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't. I find that some people don't quite get the correlation to some of the live stuff. I hope we don't lose that sonic
Yes.
interest in the fact that we're so used to listen to everything's being so perfect that people go in and go, well, this sucks. I'm leaving.
Totally. I don't think that that's going away. I think that it almost helps in a sense because to me,
Yeah.
I love sonically perfect things.
Yeah.
I am a huge proponent of everything edited, massive kick drums I'm a rock guy too.
Yeah.
So it's rock influenced as well.
Yeah.
Or in the rock genre.
Yeah.
But I love modern metal that's like so locked to the grid and like drums most of them aren't real and sampled and tuned and layers upon layers upon layers of perfectly mixed tracks of stuff. Like I love layers and all that kind of stuff. And it can't be pulled off live. I love watching certain bands live because they sound pretty good and they might sound different, but they sound good. They're not the record.
Yeah.
But they're fine. They're good. They're good songs. I'm attached to the songs. But I do really like going into a bar and watching some guy who, this goes around back to the beginning of our conversation, is playing authentically what he wants to do and what's good for his voice and you can tell he believes what he's singing. I believe you can tell that. So when you see a singer-songwriter who's not perfect, but who's got a guitar and a vocal, doesn't sound the best, but you authentically go, man, he loves this.
Yes.
I'm still drawn to that. I'm like, yeah, you can be tuned and you can be fixed.
Drawn to the emotion, the art of
but
the
I'm drawn
emotion.
to the emotion of that artist's work.
Yeah.
Still. And I think that still holds a big sway. And people do almost now, because everything's so perfect, are drawn towards some of this imperfect stuff.
As you were saying, there's this, like the big underground.
Everybody loves being part of the underground.
Right? It's like, well, no, that's good. I hope that. I really do, because I do know that with the technology, and of course we evolve. Music evolves, production evolves, artists evolve. I like the people that do their own thing and don't recreate Nickelback.
Right.
Or Shania. Or the major sounds. Like, I'd rather somebody be their own person.
Yeah.
There's a handful of them.
Totally.
They're hard to find sometimes.
But they exist.
But they do exist. And that to me, getting back to the original question about the art.
Yeah.
That to me, those people are not obviously selling out to the number.
No, they're being authentic. And I believe that does play the biggest role of anything. As somebody who likes processed stuff, I can still tell when it's like, this band doesn't enjoy this. They're just making this and they've been really manipulated because they don't know what they're doing or they don't care or they can't play.
Right.
Versus it's been manipulated to take it to the next level, but this is still them.
Yes.
Kind of like Nickelback. It's manipulated. There's no question.
Oh yeah, no, that's processed.
But it's still the writing and everything surrounding it is still, that's what and frankly, that's how I feel about my own music. I live for editing my vocal and making it perfect.
Right.
I love that sound.
Right.
And I love making my guitars, like locking in a bunch of layers and making the harmonies exactly perfect. I don't like my own sound when it's not like that. But when I hear it like that, it's not that I'm a bad musician. It's just that that's what gets me excited.
That's what makes you excited. That's the emotional part.
That's the emotional part to me, is that. And that might seem counterintuitive to some people, but that emotionally hits me where I'm like, oh, that sounds so good. I love the sonics. Whereas some people, and I think you're drawn towards the natural.
The opposite. Yeah, I like it to flow and I like it to be not as tight.
Exactly.
But we're both right. That's the nice thing.
Totally.
That's the thing about art. Again, we're standing looking at the same picture.
Yep.
And I might love it and you might go, I don't get it.
Yep.
But that's the beautiful thing about art. It's so subjective, right?
Totally.
And we're both right.
It's how you got influenced as you grew up. It's everything to do with anything in your life.
Yep.
Because I listen to, I'm going to get hate for this, but I listen to the Rolling Stones and I listen to Motley Crue and I appreciate what they've done.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I listen to the records and I'm like, oh my God, it hurts.
Loose.
I don't like it. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I know tons of people absolutely love them and it's the best thing ever. I didn't grow up in that era.
Yeah.
So to me, it just doesn't sound good. Some of the songs are great. They still have good writing here and there. But even some of the writing, I'm like, this part is too long.
Yeah.
Why is it so long? Because I grew up in an era of 4-bar sections, and then there's a change.
Yeah.
And they don't have that. They don't have the perfection of the modern digital tools of making everything. And that's fine. But I think that goes back to how we grew up. You grew up more in that era versus me. And wherever it goes from here, whether it suddenly goes back to unedited, whether it goes to the next level of editing, which who knows, but it doesn't really matter. The point is it's going to keep evolving.
Yes.
And I think to kind of encompass the whole thing, and the kind of reminder that I guess I want people to remember from this for music producers and engineers and artists, when you're making your music and when you're making music with other people, the biggest thing is be authentic to who you are, because sonics and the perfection of everything clearly doesn't matter. Yeah. Because it's how people are going to perceive it. So the only real like North Star in a production and in a songwriting and in anything is how you and the artist and the producer and the team making it, the small team making it, feel about it at the time of making it. And that's the biggest thing that I think comes out. Like we said, the guy who has a guitar and is authentically, that's his thing.
That's his,
that will stand out just as much as the biggest production known to man if they are also authentic about it.
Yes.
I think that comes across more than literally anything else.
Yeah.
To do with in any genre and any production trick ever. Right? Is the authenticity of the artist. And I think that's what's going to make or break a production more than anything else.
Emotion. To me, if the singer, current day, old school, it doesn't matter. At this point now, we're not talking about technology.
Yeah.
If the singer doesn't sell the emotion of what it is they're singing, it's over.
Exactly.
Period.
Yep.
For example, the Beatles.
Yeah.
They still have some of like the number 1 and 2 records of all time. And they didn't have tuners and processors, and they played it live. They sang all together. But again, it was that emotion that was captured, and the performance is what sold the song.
Yep.
And that still remains, I think,
totally
in any genre, even current day or 100 years ago.
Yep.
If you're not selling it, I'm not buying it.
Totally.
Period.
Exactly.
And you can have all the tuners and all the guys lining stuff up you want, but if the singer's not crying when they should be or not excited when they should be, it's a dud. Okay, so to wrap this up, because I think that's just absolutely amazing and a good reminder to people to really go with what you feel and your emotion towards it and everything, and it will find its place. It will. Especially in nowadays. Be open-minded, though. Be open-minded. Try and be as open-minded as you can. Totally. And I think it's the collective of the people creating it. If you're one person, then great. That's what you're doing. If it's a team, great. Maybe not. I have this in a different episode about, don't try and have too many cooks in the kitchen, because then you have too many opinions and it's not going to go anywhere. Yes. But that's a whole other thing. That's true. Great questions, by the way. Thank you. Because it's something that I've never really thought about. Yeah. And when you pose some of those questions, it's like, that's really interesting. That's good. Well done. I want people to think about that, and I want people to really think about themselves and why they like something and why they don't. And especially as an artist, why are you trying to do something in your productions? Why are you trying to do something in your songs? Yeah. Is it because you're trying to chase the numbers? Is it because you're trying to, get the next big song, and you think that a 4-bar verse into a 2-bar pre-chorus that lifts by a fifth is going to do it? Or is that how you genuinely feel is good for this song? Right. And I think people need to be reminded of that and go, really understand why they're making certain decisions that they're making. Yeah. To again, get back to the art. I think there's definitely people that don't think about it the right way and do it for not the love and the joy and the whatever of creating the art, and are looking at it from the more analytical perspective. Right. And I genuinely believe that hurts music, but I think that people just need to
chill out and think about it as art, and it'll, especially nowadays, it'll find its place. There's more technology now available now to create great sonics and great recordings and great stuff. Put a whack of it out there and get it in front of more people.
Yeah.
As much as we hate streaming and what it's done and all this kind of stuff, and I talk about that a ton, but it has allowed, and the internet in general, websites, everything has allowed for more people to get their hands on more music in the genres they like and go to what gravitates towards them and share more music than ever before.
That's true.
Which means that now is the best time ever to be genuine to your art form, because you can be, and it will find, or can find, an audience more than it ever could before. So that is it. I think that's a good place to end for this episode. Thank you, Jay, for joining us here.
Thank you.
And I will catch you in the next episode of the ANAK Creates podcast. Thank you guys for listening and for watching. If you're over on YouTube, leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below and join the conversation, because I think this is a really interesting conversation. Everybody's going to perceive it differently. But let me know how you think about this and how you perceive music and what you think maybe influenced you growing up or in your everyday life that influences you, and maybe a certain record. I'm interested to hear if you have a certain record that you know isn't maybe the best record, or you know isn't the perfect sonic record, but you just love it because of a certain event in your life. Maybe it had to do with your significant other or a dance, or for me, it used to be I did dishes with my grandma and I always had this record on, and still genuinely, I love it. So I'm curious to see in the comments below what if you guys have any of those. So let me know over on YouTube. Go check that out. If you're listening to the audio only, then you're going to have to go over there because there's no comments on the audio version of this. But thank you guys for joining me. I will see you in the next episode. Until then, always be creating.